An explosion of darkness and a fall from a height, then suffocation and the inability to move under the slabs. This is how the victims who survived the Russian drone strike this weekend in Dnipro describe their feelings. At that time, the drone hit a 9-story building, causing half of the entrance to collapse. One of the injured fell from her apartment on the 6th floor all the way down to the 2nd and survived. Anastasia Neverna will tell their stories.
Yaroslava is now in the same hospital room as her beloved Daniil. Her leg is injured, and the boy has an injured arm. Both clearly remember the buzzing of the drone, which made them run for safety into the hallway. Then there was a loud explosion, and the ground seemed to disappear beneath their feet.
We managed to open the door to the hallway and run out. And then there was just darkness, and we were falling. I fell from the 3rd floor to the 2nd, and the boy fell all the way to the 1st floor.
Honestly, I was falling for a really long time. I actually thought it was a dream and hoped I would wake up, but when I landed, everything was dark, there was a lot of dust, and I could already smell something burning. And actually the scariest part wasn't the falling or the flight, but when I landed, I heard her screaming that her head hurt, and she said, "I can't take it anymore."
Yaroslav's father rushed in to save him and fell through himself.
He tried to find me, but I was completely buried, even my head. I tried to shout to him, he found me and started digging out my head. He managed to uncover about half of me. There were 2 slabs lying on my legs, and there were 4 men there. Unfortunately, they couldn't lift them. We waited until they arrived to cut them apart.
Daniil and Yaroslava spent about an hour under the rubble, but they say that time felt like an eternity. I
couldn't understand how much concrete was lying on top of me. I thought they just wouldn't be able to dig me out. I couldn't move at all. I tried to move my leg, but it just made the pressure on me even worse.
I immediately turned on my flashlight and I heard voices. I turned on the flashlight and started shining it around, saying that I was here. My arm was really badly trapped. There was a slab lying on it. There was no way I could get out. And when they finally freed me After they lifted the slab that was pinning my arm, I was able to get up on my own. But it was already very hard for me, so I went to the guys, to the policeman, and he picked me up and carried me out through the entrance.
Miss Natalia lived with her husband and daughter on the 6th floor. When the explosion happened, she rushed into the child's room, took a few steps, and fell into the void.
I had just turned around and immediately there was this explosion, smoke, fire, you couldn't see anything. I'm shouting, "Alera!" I ran from the room into the hallway, but there was no floor left, nothing. And I immediately fell to the 2nd floor.
Despite the excruciating pain, she managed to get up, make her way to the bathroom, and wait there for rescue. If she had stayed where she was, she could have died, the woman says.
They told me later that while I was sitting there, a piece of rebar fell from above right onto the spot where I had been sitting. Then a rescuer helped me get down. I was completely calm. My husband was shouting, "Natalia, are you okay?" I said yes. I found Lera. She was with the cat.
As it turned out later, Mrs. Natalia's daughter also fell several floors down.
The daughter fell from the 6th floor. The daughter, along with the bed, the cat, and the floor, landed on the 4th floor, while her husband remained in the room.
Half an hour after the strike, rescuers dug out the family's beloved Yorkie on the 2nd floor. According to the doctors, there is no longer any threat to the lives of the injured people.
They are all on the mend. There are fractures, there are injuries, but both the young man and the 3 women are recovering well. And
the victims have nowhere to return to. The Russians destroyed their homes. Ms. Natalia only has her room and her TV left intact. Almost the entire apartment of Yaroslava and Daniil has been destroyed. Only this pink hallway wall is still standing. Anastasia Neverna, Vladislav Commission, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
The Defense Forces struck an oil refinery in Russia's Orenburg region. Explosions were heard and a fire broke out at the Irsky oil refinery. According to the General Staff, the plant produced over 6 million tons of oil per year and supplied the Russian army. The armed forces of Ukraine managed to hit one of the primary fuel processing units. Ukrainian drones also visited the Saratov oil refinery last night. It belongs to Rosneft, one of the largest companies of the aggressor state. The enterprise has not yet recovered from a similar attack that occurred a week ago. In total, nearly 40 drones attacked Russia on Tuesday. The Belgorod, Rostov and Bryansk regions, as well as the occupied territories, were affected. The defense forces have withdrawn from positions near 5 settlements in the Huliapol direction. This was reported to Suspilne by the spokesperson for the Southern Defense Forces, Vladislav Voloshin. Ukrainian troops have completely withdrawn from Uspenivka and Novomykolaivka. Fierce fighting continues for Yablukove and several other settlements. The invaders are trying to cut off the logistical route leading from Pokrovsk in the Dnipro region. And in the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are already entering the city itself. A video has appeared online showing infantry on bikes and motorcycles moving freely through the southern outskirts. The enemy took advantage of the thick fog. TSN sources reported that this video is already a few days old. Later, footage appeared showing pilots from the 68th Brigade shooting up a parking lot of abandoned bikes. But there were no enemy infantry nearby. They had already moved into the city. Currently, according to our sources, there are more than 500 Russians in Pokrovsk. A correspondent from SN Tizhden visited near Pokrovsk. Oleksandr Zahorodny and his report are coming up next.
Pokrovsky district. We're heading in. What's the scariest thing for journalists at the front? No, not the shelling. The scariest thing is when you're near the front line and you don't know the way. You're not sure you're not driving straight into enemy positions.
Different positions, such as various positions.
Dozens of burned out cars on the road, shattered houses. We're near Kucheryavy Yar, where until recently, fierce fighting was taking place. The meeting with these fighters from the renowned 25th Syecheslav Airborne Brigade is heartfelt. Now they are a medic and a producer. But until recently, they were TSN cameramen Ivan Holovak and Alexander Rebenchuk. Each of them has filmed hundreds of reports from the front lines. Now they themselves are defending this country with weapons in their hands. Their work begins at dusk. The fighters quickly assemble the bombers. These are powerful quadcopters. We call them vampires, while the enemy calls them Baba Yaga. The new device is being tested by a fighter with the call sign Krim. Just a few hours ago, he received an award from the president's hands.
He was presented with the Order for Courage, 3rd class.
So, any chance of a vacation? No? Not the right time for a vacation?
It's just not the time for a vacation yet.
And here near Pokrovsk, there really is no time to rest right now. The commander with the call sign Berzui is urging his men on. The vampires should already be at the front line. The situation at the front is tough.
Mirnohrad, Pokrovsk and our other defensive positions that are still bravely holding are keeping our land. There aren't really any positions as such, but groups are infiltrating, they're moving, and they're being destroyed.
That's how the commander describes the situation in Pokrovsk. The enemy is infiltrating the city in small groups. They are not engaging in combat with Ukrainian units. Their main objective is to get into our rear and establish themselves there. It turns into a kind of layered pie. The enemy is in the rear of our forces, but our troops are also in the enemy's rear. Ammunition, fuel, and food can only be delivered to the outskirts, only at night and with great risk. After that, the bombers get to work. These drones will be flying all night long. They won't be bombing enemy positions. They will be rescuing our soldiers right in Pokrovsk. The first flight is for gasoline. Fuel means a generator. It means charging for radios. It means communication.
Some things will break, some won't. We drop it onto the net, and then who knows how it'll go.
The enemy has a rough idea of where our positions are and constantly turns on jammer. And this is already Dnipro region. The front line is dozens of kilometers away, but the Russians can reach here, and they do. They hit this strategic facility. Or to be more precise, a strategic one. There used to be a small complex here. People sold soft drinks. The local women talk about the tragedy that happened here with surprising calm. Who didn't die?
A 65-year-old woman. And the owner, they said, lost an arm and a leg. 5-year-old girls too, either their leg or something else. It was all torn off as well.
Nets. Continuous tunnels of nets. The Donetsk region is already wrapped in them. The roads of Dnipropetrovsk region are being covered with nets too. Dozens of teams are working in all directions near here. But even these builders don't know for sure whether the net will save them from an enemy strike.
At least it stops a drone from a direct hit. At least something, some hope to survive.
This team's daily quota is to cover a kilometer of road with netting. In the near future, it is expected that all of the main highways and major roads leading to the Donetsk region will look exactly like this. But the question remains, will this actually help to solve the situation, or will it simply change the way things appear on the surface?
Ukrainians must return home from captivity. Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council Rustem Umerov arrived in Istanbul to unblock the exchange process. The official reported this on his Telegram channel. Umerov noted that he will be working in Turkey and the Middle East for the next few days. There, the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council will hold a series of meetings. They will concern the issue of resuming exchanges. The European Union wants to create a new intelligence unit under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen. This was reported by the Financial Times. The goal is to improve the use of information gathered by national intelligence agencies. This initiative was prompted by Trump's warnings about reducing American support in the security sector. The European unit could be formed within the General Secretariat of the Commission and would collect intelligence information for the shared needs of the EU. But there is also a problem. Major European countries with greater capabilities, such as France, are cautious about sharing sensitive information. The process is also complicated by pro-Russian governments in countries such as Hungary, according to the Financial Times. Will such a new intelligence unit in Europe help respond to challenges more quickly and better understand hostile, particularly Russian intentions? Share your thoughts in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. He blew himself up near the courthouse. A terrorist attack occurred in Pakistan, resulting in 12 deaths. At least 27 people were injured. According to preliminary reports, the attacker planned to target the district court in the capital, Islamabad, but was unable to get inside, so he blew himself up near a police vehicle. The explosion could be seen and heard from afar. Complete chaos broke out immediately. Lawyers and those who were near the court began to run deeper into the building. Law enforcement officers immediately cordoned off the area. It is still unknown who exactly carried out the terrorist attack, but the authorities promised to bring those responsible to justice and to find out who is behind it. The Prime Minister of Pakistan has already stated that he suspects an extremist group with ties to India. So far, New Delhi has not responded to these accusations, but coincidentally, a car also exploded in the Indian capital the day before. 8 people were killed and several others were injured. It is unknown whether this was a terrorist act. A 62-year-old man in Kharkiv is suspected of preparing a terrorist attack. The security service says he tried to set up a tripwire with an F1 hand grenade in a city park. According to investigators, the man received instructions from a Russian handler via messenger and acted on his orders. It is preliminarily known that he was recruited through his wife, who now lives in Moscow. The security service says he was gathering information about Ukrainian military personnel and was also supposed to acquire explosives and equipment for new sabotage operations. The explosion in the park was meant to serve as a kind of test before larger-scale attacks. The detainee has been charged with state treason and preparing a terrorist act. He is in custody with no right to bail. The 3rd anniversary of Kherson's liberation, Volodymyr Zelensky will visit the city. He noted that this Friday there will be a meeting regarding the situation in the frontline cities. There, in particular, they plan to make decisions regarding Kherson's energy security and education system. The president also recognized teachers, doctors, rescuers, and police officers who keep life going in the city every day. Today, Zelensky presented the Hero's Star to the son of Alexander Hordienko, a farmer who personally cleared hundreds of hectares of land of mines and shot down drones with a rifle. He was killed at the beginning of September this year by an enemy drone. Zelensky also visited one of Kherson's hospitals, where people injured by artillery and drone strikes are being saved. Its intensive care unit is located underground. 11 medical institutions in the city already have such modules, and new ones are still being built.
It's already the 3rd anniversary of the city's liberation from the Russians. The occupiers fled from here. We remember how the courage of our people made this happen, how Ukrainian flags returned to the city of Kherson. I thank every one of our soldiers who fought for Kherson, everyone who is defending this beautiful city now, defending the lives of our people, our people's lives. Today I held a meeting here with everyone responsible for security. Our military drone forces were also present. We determined what Kherson needs in order to have better protection against the thousands of Russian drone strikes on this city every month. In fact, this threat is constant. I decided that our drone forces, such as Magyar's birds and other units, will increase their capabilities here, specifically the capabilities for defense. It is important to implement all of this. We set tasks for the protection of roads and logistics. Government officials will assist.
Kherson was the only regional center that the occupiers managed to capture during the full-scale invasion. The city spent 8 months under occupation, but it became an example of partisan resistance. TSN correspondent Natalia Nahorna recalled how it all happened. These are
the scenes that brought even the strongest to tears. On this day 3 years ago, the Ukrainian army raised blue and yellow flags and was greeted by the population in the outskirts.
Located on the right bank.
The largest multi-day celebration swept through the city of Kherson. People with blue and yellow flags rejoiced and proved one thing: Kherson was waiting for the armed forces of Ukraine. The occupation of the Kherson region began on February 24, 2022.
Russian armed forces units took full control of the regional center, Kherson.
But the occupiers entered the city itself on March 1st. That day turned into the tragedy of Buskov High. Dozens of Kherson territorial defense fighters, almost unarmed and all in civilian clothes, were mercilessly shot by the occupiers. The bodies of those killed then had to be collected by locals and buried in mass graves.
We also pray for the repose of the newly departed.
But the tragedy in Buskovi High does not stop the courageous people of Kherson. The city is under occupation, but on the central square, thousands of brave people gather with blue and yellow flags.
Step aside.
The Russians managed to stop these rallies, but not the partisan movement. Cars carrying occupiers regularly exploded in the city. Already in July, the residents of Kherson region were warned the city under occupation would not be abandoned. HIMARS play a key role. Strikes on the Antonivsky Bridge give hope. Russia is staging a fake referendum to annex the occupied territories. But soon after, the occupiers make a so-called gesture of goodwill. They flee and the Ukrainian army advances. They are greeted with flowers and endless hugs. The occupiers blow up the Antonivsky Bridge, the TV tower, strategic enterprises, and loot museums. But the whole world sees how much Kherson longed for this freedom. Trains started running to Kherson, even though after that the enemy repeatedly shelled both the station itself and the passenger cars. Locals joyfully tore down posters that claimed Russia was here forever. Of course, in our memory, the city of Kherson is like this. Very warm and full of watermelons, where people weave nets in the square. On the former pedestal of Lenin, there are portraits of our heroes. Alongside the joy of liberation, the uncovering of Russia's crimes always follows. It becomes known about abductions, torture, and torture chambers. In June 2023, Russia blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant. Kherson and the nearby villages and towns experienced a flood. The city was covered by a great flood, but people from all over Ukraine came to help Kherson and the surrounding settlements. These 3 years of freedom have come at a very high price for Kherson. Russia terrorizes the hero city with constant shelling, kills Kherson residents, and destroys their homes. But tens of thousands of people are holding on to their native Kherson. On the approach to the city, long kilometers of road are covered with anti-drone nets. The enemy reaches all districts of the city and beyond with guided bombs and airdropped munitions. The central square, where people celebrated the liberation, was destroyed by air bombs and missile strikes. But the city continues to fight and proves it every day. Kherson is Ukraine. Natalia Nahorna, Ihor Siri, TSN 1+1.
With grand military parades, Europe marks 107 years since the end of the First World War. It was on November 11, 1918, that the so-called Compiègne Armistice was signed, which put an end to the fighting. The First World War claimed the lives of about 10 million people. In Europe, this date is called Remembrance Day, and its symbol is the red poppy flower. Such boutonnieres are worn on outer clothing. In the United Kingdom, official ceremonies were held in the presence of Queen Camilla and her daughter-in-law, the Princess of Wales. Catherine visited the memorial complex in Staffordshire and honoured the fallen with a minute of silence. And Camilla laid wreaths at Paddington Station in London. Families of active service members and their children were present there. Prince William recorded a video message to the youth in honour of the fallen soldiers. In the evening, a formal reception was planned at Windsor Castle for veterans who served on the Pacific Front during World War II. The end of the First World War was also commemorated in France. The ceremonies took place on the Champs-Élysées with a military parade and the participation of President Emmanuel Macron. Following tradition, the politician rode accompanied by cavalry, reviewed the troops, laid flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe, signed the visitors' golden book, and also greeted veterans and military officials.